We ask a lot of our enduro bikes. They're expected to be nearly as fast and strong as a downhill rig, but still climb efficiently and be manageable on a wide range of terrain. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of people have just come to expect the fact that they're gonna cost as much as a decent used car. But not Polygon. Meet the fully redesigned Polygon Collosus N, a race-proven enduro sled with a base price of just over $2,000. I've had a chance to spend some time riding Polygon's flagship model, the Collosus N9, and today I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the bike, my thoughts on how it feels on the trail, and ultimately whether or not it's right for you. So let's go ahead and start off with the updated frame. The 2026 Collosus may look a good bit like its predecessor upon first glance, but take a closer look and you'll see that Polygon's made some pretty substantial improvements and changes on the frame. One of the biggest of these is the flip chip. This allows riders to switch between a full 29-inch setup or a mullet configuration without altering the frame's geometry. Making the switch is super easy. Just loosen the two bolts and rotate the clearly marked chip from 29 to MX and you're good to go. I'm personally a big fan of smaller wheels, so having the ability to now run a 27.5-inch rear wheel without constantly pedal striking is pretty awesome. And I did get a chance to try this out on the trail with the 27.5-inch wheel. I'll be talking more about that in a little bit. Now, since Polygon already had to redesign the dropouts anyway, they went ahead and made it UDH compatible as well, which means you can now run any one of SRAM's new T-type drivetrains on your Collosus, which is pretty awesome. Next up, Polygon changed the shock mount from a trunnion to a standard eyelet. Eyelet-mounted shocks tend to be a bit stiffer and are more resistant to side loading, so this new design makes the frame even more bomb-proof. Last but not least, Polygon also added a second pair of mounting points below the top tube to add a storage bag. But there are quite a few things that Polygon didn't change on the Collosus, because after all, if it's not broke, why fix it? One of those is the IFS, or independent floating suspension. If this design looks complex to you, that's because it is. I won't get too far into the weeds for this video, but the 6-bar design essentially allows the engineers to separate and independently tune various components of the bike's 170mm of travel. And boy, is this noticeable on the trail. The bike is extremely supple early in its travel, but also still a very efficient climber. The suspension ramps up significantly as you move through the travel, giving you a nice platform to push off when popping off lips or pumping hard down an enduro course. Another thing that Polygon has opted to keep the same on the Collosus is its geometry. It has the same 63.5-degree head tube angle, which promotes confidence on steep descents, and the 77-degree seat tube angle that makes for a comfortable and efficient climbing position. Speaking of the seat tube, it's also pretty dang long and straight, meaning that even on smaller frame sizes, you can run a long travel dropper post. Now, one of my favorite things about the Geo on the Collosus are the short 435mm chainstays. I know short chainstays aren't exactly in vogue these days, but I feel like they make the bike feel way more playful and maneuverable than you'd expect for a burly 170mm enduro bike. Next, let's move on to the components that come spec'd on the top-tier Collosus. And as you're about to find out, the stuff that you're going to see on this bike is usually reserved for bikes that cost thousands of dollars more. Starting at the front of the bike, there's a Fox 38 performance fork offering 170mm of travel. The fork has a wide range of usable compression and rebound adjustments, making it easy to dial into your specific preferences, and was of course plenty stiff and strong enough for anything I threw at it while testing. At the back of the bike is an equally burly and adjustable Fox Float X2 shock, which again delivers 170mm of rear wheel travel. Group set duties are taken care of by Shimano, with the 12-speed XT drivetrain and XT 4-piston brakes. I'm super stoked that Polygon didn't skimp here, because really, there's nothing more annoying or in some cases dangerous than a poor shifting drivetrain or underpowered brakes. And the XT stuff sure does deliver. As for wheels and tires, the bike rolls on a pair of Entity rims laced to Shimano XT hubs. The high engagement rear hub not only sounds sweet, but is also incredibly helpful when squeezing in an extra pedal stroke on a race run or ratcheting through tricky sections of trail. These wheels are wrapped in a pair of super aggressive Maxxis Assegai tires. I was riding some pretty loose, blown out trails, and these things never let me down. It's also worth noting that both the rims and the tires are tubeless compatible, so the bike can be set up tubeless right out of the box. Last but not least, Polygon spec'd the bike with some nice touch points from Raceface, including the Affect R bars and stem, as well as a 170mm drop post on my size large. All in all, the components spec'd on the N9 match the Collosus's no-nonsense take to enduro riding. There's no fancy bling or carbon bits, which means it isn't the lightest thing in the world. My size large came in at just under 39 pounds or 17.7 kilograms. But let's be real, this isn't a bike for lycra-clad weight weenies. It's designed to be ridden hard and put away wet. And the strong, reliable parts from Fox, Shimano, and Raceface are certainly up to the task. And when you take into account the relatively low price you're paying for all this sweet kit, it makes it hard to spend more for an inferiorly spec'd bike from someone else. Now that we've covered the tech bits, let's get into what the Polygon Collosus N9 feels like on the trail. Honestly, the most surprising thing about the N9 is just how fun it is on a wide variety of terrain. It's impressively agile for a long travel aluminum enduro bike, making it feel lighter on its feet than the scale would suggest. This invites a playful, engaged riding style, pumping rollers, preloading lips, slashing through corners with confidence. The chassis feels stiff and reactive, and the supportive suspension encourages you to ride dynamically rather than just sit back and plow. These traits are further enhanced when you switch the 29-inch rear wheel to a 27.5. It's poppy as all get out with plenty to push against when pulling up into manuals or boosting off lips, but it's still incredibly forgiving when you inevitably surpass your own skill level. Thankfully though, all that fun doesn't come at the cost of capability. When you drop into steeper, more technical terrain, the Collosus N9 turns into a very serious bike. The 6-bar IFS suspension delivers consistent traction and controlled damping across chunky, unpredictable terrain. It doesn't mute the trail in a dull way, but it does take the edge off and lets you stay in control. When you do need to point and shoot through a nastier section of trail, the N9 is more than happy to hold the line. The 63.5-degree head-tube angle gives you plenty of confidence when things get steep, and the long front center helps you stay balanced and calm when braking late into switchbacks or hitting high-speed compressions. You might think that these shorter chainstays might be a bit of a detriment here, but I never experienced that. Again, I think a lot of that comes down to this 6-bar suspension, but the rear wheel, even when set up with the 27.5-inch wheel, always tracked the ground nicely, and I never felt like I was hanging too far over the back of the bike. Now, let's be real. No one's going to be buying a Polygon Collosus because they love climbing. But for many of us, it is a necessary evil if we want to enjoy the descents that come after. Thankfully, Collosus isn't a slouch here either. The steep 77-degree seat tube angle keeps your hips directly over the cranks, allowing for efficient power transfer and better rear wheel traction on even the steepest of climbs. It also puts you in a comfortable upright position, allowing you to breathe easy and recharge for the next descent. What's even more impressive is that it's one of the few enduro bikes I've ridden that pedals efficiently even when the suspension is left open. And again, I think a lot of that comes down to the wizardry hidden there in the IFS suspension. That said, if you are climbing a particularly smooth stretch of fire road, there is a lockout switch that can be reached real easily straight from the saddle. All in all, the Collosus strikes a pretty rare balance. It's playful when you want to party and planted when you need to get serious. It rewards an active riding style without punishing you when the trails turn chaotic. So whether you're boosting jumps, threading through tech, or racing enduro stages, it offers a ride quality that feels confident, modern, and flat out fun. So clearly, I'm pretty sold on the 2026 Collosus. But if you're not there quite yet, I want to introduce you to a couple of Polygon's pro riders who have not only spent way more time on this bike than I have, they actually helped design it. The first of which is Dan Wolf, a professional enduro racer who won last year's Trans Madeira. Dan sets up his Collosus to be ultra responsive and precise. He prioritizes efficiency, traction, and control, dialing in the suspension for sensitivity, line holding through blown out off-camber chaos. Meanwhile, Luke Whitlock, one of the boldest up-and-coming freeriders who competed in his first Red Bull Rampage last year, runs his Collosus in full freeride mode, with small wheels and stiff suspension. This helps him send massive gaps and throw crazy tricks. They both ride the same frame, but they've transformed them into completely different bikes. And I think that's kind of all you need to know about the insane versatility of this bike. All in all, the 2026 Collosus is a rare kind of bike, one that doesn't demand a single riding style, skill level, or terrain. It's built for riders who want options, riders who love to push limits on technical enduro trails one day and go full send at the bike park the next. So whether you're a racer, freerider, or just trying to keep up with your kids at the bike park, the Collosus will help you do that and put a smile on your face at the same time. If you've got any more questions about this awesome bike, you can leave those down there in the comments and I'll be sure to get you an answer. While you're there, I'd appreciate it if you take a second to like this video and subscribe to the BikesOnline channel. And after you've done that, grab your bike, whatever it is, get out there and get ripping.